Hey everyone, it's a snowman with tooloud2oldmusic.com. Welcome back to the collection. This week, we're going to talk about a gentleman by the name of William Broad. You probably better know him as Billy Idol. I'm a huge Billy Idol fan. I've, been buying his albums since he came out back in the early 80s, and I really got into it back in the 7 years ago or so. And now I think I have all the vinyls that are on official releases, except for maybe some oddball stuff that came out in certain countries. Um, and so we're going to go through those. We'll start with the debut EP and work our way forward up to his new stuff. We won't do Generation X for this one. We're going to wait and do my own little episode on Gen X because I think I have enough. We could do a nice little episode there. So, but before Billy's debut album, he was being managed by Kiss's manager for Bill Aucoin. And Aucoin was actually managing Gen X, Tony James and Billy. Aucoin wanted everyone to come to New York and move. Tony, I don't think, wanted to do that. But Billy didn't hesitate. He pretty much moved everything and went to New York. So that was basically the end of Gen X and Generation X stuff. So, but it was the beginning of Billy Idol's solo career. And New York would have been a great place for him, both good stuff and bad stuff, very inspirational. But it also led to a lot of drug problems, which we'll touch on a little bit. But the debut EP is called Don't Stop. It's just a 4-song EP. My version here is an original version. Only thing is, I do not have the poster that was included. One day I'll find a copy that has the poster because that'll be a nice thing to have. Um, no insert either, but it's just on a Chrysalis record. And most of his albums up through the early 90s are all Chrysalis as well. It has 4 songs. It starts off with the Tony James and the Chandrell song Moni Moni. He does that cover. But then it has 3 songs that Idol wrote, one of which is specific to this release. It's Baby Talk, which isn't a bad song. But side 2 are 2 Generation X songs. One is Untouchables, which I really, really love. And it's not the Gen X version. This one was actually re-recorded for the Don't Stop EP. Now, the 4th track on here is Dancing with Myself, which is a Gen X song, very famous Gen X song. This is actually the Gen X song. I don't think they re-recorded it. I think it's that version that he did. And it was written by Billy and Tony James and that. So, but it was a really solid start. This was released in October, I think, October 1981. So we start off at the very beginning of the 80s, the beginning of MTV, which is very influential in Billy's success, as those videos that he did for the next album would really start to grab hold of everybody. And that next album is his debut. It is Billy Idol. Now, this particular version is my original. This is actually the one I bought back a long time ago. Turtles Records. We can see here that was my local record store, and it was only $8.66, a special. But this one, there's actually 2 different versions of this album. There is one that has the original cover, which is this pretty awful cover. Um, can't say I'm a real big fan of that cover. I don't think a lot of people were, and so they did change it up and put it out on this version here, which is a much better song. Now there are a couple differences as a result. On the original version with this cover, it has a song called Congo Man as the very last one. But on the new version, they did another one of Dancing with Myself on this version. So the one thing, if you notice back on the back, it has the 1 and the 2. Um, when you pull out the album, that is a side 1 and a side 2. Um, and that's important because on the next album that will show something that kind of mirrors that. But this particular one, this came out in 1982. Um, so not, July of 1982, so not too far after the EP. And this one has White Wedding, which is everyone knows that song, love that song, and it's White Wedding Part One. And another big hit he had off this one was Hot in the City. Um, just a classic Billy Idol song. Uh, and this album also was the introduction of Steve Stevens on guitar. Steve wasn't on the EP, but they had met around that time and started working on this album together. Steve Stevens has two writing credits. He does Come On, which is the opening track. Great, great opening track. And he's also on Shooting Stars, which is later on. It's a deep cut on the album. Um, so the muscle cover was kind of a reissue from 1983, and that's when they added the Dancing with Myself. I'm surprised any of those albums sold with the that other shirt on. Just not a great great look. Um, and then also with that album, I do have the 12-inch single for White Wedding. So this one has parts one and parts two. Um, and on the flip side is strictly part two. I'm trying to say part one is the one one you hear on the radio, the video you see on MTV. Part two is more of like a remix, extended version. It's very, very different. Not, I don't really like it that much, I'll be honest. I prefer just to listen to part one. I'd rather just have that. Um, and again, another Christmas label. Um, but I was happy to find this. I do like the cover with Billy and the lady in the wedding dress. Um, so that's it was a cool ad. I found that out. Then what we have next is 1983 is the very famous one of his biggest albums is Rebel Yell. This came out in November 10th, 1983. Steve Stevens this time contributed to all but one track, if I'm not mistaken. The only one he didn't do was Catch My Fall. But he helped write all the other songs. Um, they had some record label trouble, and I think Billy uh, wanted creative control on the album, so he stole the tapes and disappeared with the tapes for a little while. Um, the record company, of course, we know caved and allowed him to have control. So that was really an interesting thing, and good for him for standing up for himself. Um, and the funny thing is, I think who's the producer on this one? Is it Billy? Yeah, it's Keith Forsey. Um, I think he eventually said that Billy actually stole the wrong tapes. They really weren't the masters, but no one ever said anything because they wanted the label to think it was. So here is my original version. This is actually a German version, I should say. And that's the back. And so there's the three and the four. And if you'll see on the album, which yeah, I've got the insert, um, and there's that. But on the album, it's not they do side one and side two on this one. Um, but on the covers itself, the jacket, I should say, it's just listed as side three and side four, and everything. This is the one that has, of course, Rebel Yell, one of my favorite songs. And then another one of my favorites is Eyes Without a Face. Um, the what else? Blue Highway is on here, which is an old, I think that, let's see, what is that one? That is an old song. Now I can't find my notes on that one. Um, it's a Billy Idol song, but it has this old school feel to it. There's Flesh for Fantasy, Catch My Fall, and one of my favorite deep cuts, Do Not Stand in the Shadows. I really like that one. And as you can see, Steve Stevens gets a bigger role now. He is on the back cover because he is a crucial part of the sound and all of that. So glad to see him get that. Now, if you are aware, we're at the what? 40th anniversary, and this just came out. Here's the 40th anniversary 2LP expanded deluxe edition. Doesn't look really any different, except this one has, of course, a lot on the second LP. It's got a lot of the bonus tracks. It's a couple new ones. Best Way Out of Here, Love Don't Live Here Anymore. Some demos and early versions and remixes of the other songs. I haven't actually opened it. I do have the CD as well. And someday we'll go through all the CDs. But I was listening to the CD. I didn't open this one yet. But, one of his best albums. Really like that one. So between that one and the next album, Billy's drug problem was getting really bad. He even broke up with his longtime girlfriend. I think her name's Perry Lester. Lister. Forgive me if I got it wrong. Um, so, things weren't really good. But one thing I did find here, I found a picture disc from the album. Um, this has got Eyes Without a Face, and then on the other side is Blue Highway and Do Not Stand in the Shadows. And I was just out and about and saw that, so I had to grab it. I don't, I do like picture discs, but I won't normally get them unless it's something. But while he was dealing with some of his problems, the record company in the UK decided to release Vital Idol. This is different than the US release, which came a couple years later, and we'll talk about that. Um, I don't have, um, there's no insert on it, but I do like the label. The label has Billy on it. Um, and this is just an album. It's a compilation album, basically, with a lot of remixes and stuff. It does have White Wedding Part 1 and Part 2. It is the shotgun mix, an uptown mix of Dancing with Myself and Flesh for Fantasy. It's got Catch My Fall, Money Money, Love Calling, and Hot in the City. Um, so this is a UK pressing because this particular one was not released in the US until after the next album. And the next album is Whiplash Smile. Whiplash Smile came out in 1986 on October 20th. Um, so that is this one. And as you see, it's now side 5 and side 6. Steve Stevens still on it. I do like this little logo thing he's got here. Really, really cool. Um, and then there's got the insert here. Great picture of Billy. Side 5, side 6. And then again, I do like that picture of it's got Steve on one side, Billy on the other, and it does say side 5 and side 6. Um, this one for me was kind of a letdown from the prior albums, but it did have some really good songs. Sweet 16, To Be a Lover is really great. Don't Need a Gun, um, Beyond Belief. There's some good stuff, but it just was a little bit different for me. The To Be a Lover song's a cover. All the rest are Billy Idol, but Steve Stevens' role wasn't as big on this one. I think he only has credits for 4 songs on here. Um, but this would also be the last album that they would record together for a long time. They eventually had a falling out after this album. Steve did something for the movie Top Gun, and I think it pissed Billy off. And so they kind of butted heads. And so that was kind of the end of that partnership for a little while. But I do have this 12-inch single. It's a UK pressing of the song To Be a Lover, and the all summer single on the other side. Let's see. It's just a maxi 12-inch maxi single. Yeah. And then that's all. So, uh again, these are not something I order. I only buy like 12-inch singles and things like that if I find them in a store. It's not something I'll go out and order on Discogs or anything. But I tend to find a lot of them. And I also found the one for Moni Moni, Billy Idol, Moni Moni Live. This has a lot of remixes. This has the Hung Like a Pony remix. Thought you wanted to be hung like a horse, but hung like a pony works. Steal the Cat dub, Moni Moni Live, and the Moni Moni single edit. Um, this one is kind of promotional for Vital Idol that was coming out, but none of these songs are on Vital Idol. So you have to have that one. The mix on the 1987 version of Vital Idol is called the Downtown Mix. So, and this one's a little bit different than the other one. I'm going to try to go back and get the other one. What did I do with it? I know I have it around here somewhere. So yeah, here we go. So they both have White Weddings 1 and 2. The 1987 version has Moni Moni, which the other version doesn't. The track order is a little different. Um, and this one also has To Be a Lover. Oh, this does have Moni Moni on it. It's just the track listing is very, very different. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to think what's the only one that doesn't have. Maybe it is Catch My No, it's got Catch My Ball. Anyway, they're just a little different order of the track list. I know I just wasted a lot of time there. Um, Chrysalis label, no, nothing really exceptional. Um, and then after that, we have another greatest hits album. Um, this one is called Billy Idol, 11 of the Best. And this is a UK pressing. I don't know what it is about UK pressings, but I have those. This one, though, I did special order because this one comes with a 12-inch single um, that other versions do not have. It's got Eyes Without a Face, To Be a Lover, Don't Need a Gun, and the Moni Moni Hung Like a Pony list. This one is in phenomenal, phenomenal condition for its age. Um, this is one I searched and searched and I waited patiently until I got one that was practically mint, but not quite. I like that it's still got the little sticker in the top. Just a really cool one, and I wanted to have it because of the 12-inch single. So that kind of just went against what I said on 12-inch singles, but that's a little different. That was a full album with that as a bonus. Um, then we finally get into his next studio album, which has been 4 years since the last one. And prior to this album, or right around the time he was recording it, he got into a really bad motorcycle accident, hurt his leg horribly, and was on a cane for a little while. And if you see the video for this album, you're going to notice he's in it very little, and he is on, he has a cane with him on that one. And the album is called Charmed Life. Um, and a really cool cover on the back. Um, I do have the insert. It's in a little rough shape. Um, this one, I like how he started to do the things with his picture on it. Um, that's always a nice little thing instead of your standard boring little label. Um, this one has some really good songs. Um, has Pumping on Steel, which is one of my favorites. I love that drum part in it. LA Woman. LA Woman, of course, is a Doors cover, and it was not for the Oliver Stone movie, which he was supposed to be in, but the motorcycle accident knocked him out. It was for a movie called LA Takedown. Um, and then there was also another song on here, The Cradle of Love, which was his big single and his big hit, was for the Andrew Dice Clay movie, Ford Fairlane. But this one again is no Steve Stevens. It's just Billy Idol. He had a lot of help on a lot of songwritings. Endless Sleep is on here. Um, Prodigal Blues, The Loveless, which opens us up. It's kind of a lot of really, really good songs. Um, so yeah, I do like that one. I like it better than Whiplash Smile. Um, so yeah, positive direction. Then we get to a time that is very different. It's 1993 now. Um, it is an album that is probably the one that most people are like never heard of, never listened to, or if they have, they don't understand it. And because it is a very experimental album. During this time, Billy got really into computers and internet and all that, how it was working. And it was just, it's a brand new thing. It was the first album cover to actually have an email address on there. Um, it was also the first one. He released a single for Shocked to the System on the album, and it was with a floppy disk that had an electronic press kit, EPK, on it, which was one of the very first ones ever done. So a very groundbreaking album. It's called Cyberpunk. This is a European pressing. It might be from Greece, if I'm not mistaken. This was not released in the US on vinyl. It was only in Europe, but it does have the typical chrysalis label on it. Um, but it is a very hard listen. It takes a while to get into it. He has an interesting cover of Heroin, not quite done the same way. Um, but there's a lot of electronic elements, a lot of industrial elements. If I'm not mistaken, it was the first album or one of the very first albums to ever use Pro Tools in the recording of the album. So again, I mean, it is just a groundbreaking album. Is it good? Eh, it's not terrible. There are a lot of songs I like on it. It is just it's not the Billy Idol you know. Uh, but this is just one I'm so happy I finally got this. This was the last one I was missing. It's a little pricey. I sold a couple things so I could get it because I was like, I'm only missing this one album. I'm gonna just buy it. So thanks to the people that bought the stuff I had on sale at Discogs. Uh, so I like this one. It's interesting. So I will pull that out a lot and give it a listen to. I go front end. I don't skip the bad stuff. Yeah, but yeah, yeah. Just it takes time. So be patient with it is all I can say. Um, then the next thing that we have on vinyl is Happy Holidays. Yeah, I just don't know where to begin on that one. It is not my favorites. But before this album, let's talk about one that he did have. He did have a studio album in 2005 called Devil's Playground. It's not on vinyl, so I don't have it here in this collection. If it ever comes out on vinyl, which I hope he does, uh, then we'll talk about it. But we're just going to skip it for now. When I go through the CDs, we can do CDs and I'll talk about it. But we have this holiday album that came out in 2006. It was not on vinyl. The vinyl just came out, oh man, in the last year or two, I think. Um, and I'm not a big holiday album fan. I don't mind compilation albums, but a whole album by one person, yeah. And it's not, there's some original songs on here and then the rest are covers. I don't like it at all. And if you go onto my website and look it up, I did a review and you'll see why. But again, I had to buy it on vinyl to complete the set. But it's still sealed. Um, yeah, maybe someday I'll listen to it. And then we have in 2008, a couple of years later, we have another greatest hits album, and this one's called "The Very Best of Idolize Yourself," and I have that one on vinyl. And then it's got a nice little cover. There's some Steve in there, just the one shot, but it's hey, at least he's in there, right? This has a couple new songs that are exclusive to this, and they're fantastic. John Wayne is one, and New Future Weapon is the other. It also has the song Speed from the Speed soundtrack, which Billy did, which is really good. And it's actually got something from every album. So applaud to him for not omitting something from Cyberpunk. Shock to the System is what he used. Um, just a really, really, really solid um, greatest hits compilation. It doesn't come with any kind of inserts on the label. It's just the idolize yourself thing. Nothing fancy. Two LPs. So uh, one I needed to have. And then after that, things went quiet. Um, it wasn't until 2014, October 2014. He likes to release stuff in October, it seems like. We get one of my favorite Billy Idol albums, and that is Kings and Queens of the Underground. This is Billy Idol back in form. There's that side, and then there's that. This album is just I don't know. It is something about it that I really, really love. Billy becomes very retrospective, looks into himself, and really goes through and says a lot about thinking about what he's gone through. Bitter Pill is on here. One of my favorite songs is Save Me Now. I just think it's one of his best. One Breath Away, Postcards from the Past, Eyes Wide Shut, Whiskey and Pills closes out the album. Just a solid rock, old time kind of rockin' Billy Idol song. Um, Trevor Horn, if I'm not mistaken, was the producer. I'm looking at my notes. So, um, yeah, in Trevor Horn from the Buggles, he was the producer on this one. Um, Steve Stevens is back. Um, Billy Morrison helped out with a little bit of the writing. So he had a lot of help. It's kind of glad to see that he and Steve Stevens got back together. And I think, you know, since 2004, it's 2014, in the last 10 years, they're still together, still putting out stuff. This one's very hard to find on vinyl. And again, it's going to run you some money if you do. Luckily, I bought that when it came out, so I didn't have to worry about that. And then for Record Store Day on November 25th, so Black Friday Record Store Day in 2016, limited to 2,000 copies only, we have BFI Live. So it's not a straight live concert, it is pieces from various shows. And it is on 3 LPs. And I'm going to see if I can open this without damaging anything. It is a trifold. Let's see. Can we get that in there? It's a trifold. There we go. Um, the songs from, like I said, various concerts over the last few years prior to this. Um, and just some great stuff. Very hard to find. Uh, like I said, there's only 2,000 copies. So hopefully if you see one, I mean, just grab it because it's worth getting. Um, and then, what was it? September 2018, we get another Vital Idol. This one's called Revitalized. It is a 2 LP set. This, like I said, September 2018. Um, this has an insert as well. Uh, and this is a very it's an interesting one. It has a lot of famous people remixing the albums. It's got Moby, The Crystal Method, Paul Oakenfold remixed one. Even Billy, I think even Steve Stevens yeah, he did one as well. Um, it's just it's not as good as Vital Idol. Um, it does have some interesting moments. It is worth checking out, but I'd get Vital Idol first before I'd buy this one. But again, I collect them all, so I had to have that one too. Uh, now, a few years later, September 17th, 2021, we get an EP. Um, it is The Roadside. And I actually have a signed copy from Billy right there. So um, he's, you know, times have changed. They don't really want to do a full album per se all the time, but it's been great. In 2021, he gave us 4 new songs, and the killer songs on here, Bitter Taste, and oh man, I mean, just Rita Hayworth is great, but Bitter Taste is so good. It's kind of talks about his motorcycle accident. So again, he's being introspective, looking back at things. Um, it's really I don't know, it is classic Billy. It sounds like Billy. It's just really fantastic. You don't have to kiss me like that, Rita Hayworth, and baby, put your clothes back on. You know, if he does EPs only every year or so, I'm fine with that. As long as we're getting new music. Well, then a year after that one, he released another EP called The Cage. This one is even better than Roadside. It has Cage as the opening item, the opening song, but number two, Running from the Ghost, one of the best songs he's done. A song called Rebel Like You and Miss Nobody, which is a really fun track. That was produced by Butch Walker. Tommy English and Zach Cervini did the other 3 songs. But this thing is just as great. It's not signed. I really love that. And from what I understand, this fall, we might actually be getting a full length Billy Idol album. And if we do, I'll come back and review it. So that's all the official releases that I have in vinyl. I do have two bootlegs. Um, this one is called, which one is this one? This is called Rebel Waltz. It is just two flyers, one on the front, one on the back. There is actually nothing on the cover, like a solid, true 70s, 80s bootleg would be. This one was, it says it's New York, but it's not. It's Houston from December 1984. Soundboard recording from that show. It is freaking awesome. Yeah, it's funny. It says it's in New York City here, but the back of it actually says Houston, December 1984. So, you can never trust these bootleggers. They don't always get it right. Great show. Um, Glad I have that one. And at the same time, I found that one at my local store. We had Rebel Calling. Um, it's another bootleg live at the Roxy in LA. This one is 1982. So real early stuff. Things on here that Generation X stuff and early Billy Idol. Um, I love how bootlegs, instead of white wedding, it says with wedding. I just love little crap like that when they screw it up. But if you want some early Idol and some Generation X stuff mixed in, that's really a fantastic thing. It doesn't, sounds not the best, but you know, what can you say? It's a bootleg. You know what you're getting. Well, you really don't know what you're getting, but most of the time it's going to be a little rough. It's not going to sound official, like they did anything up, cleaned it up or anything. It's pretty raw. But I love the bootlegs. I have a ton of them, but not with all the bands that I collect. So that is my Billy Idol collection. I hope you enjoyed it. I just can't say enough good things about Billy. I'm a huge fan, and I hope he continues to put out new albums. And as I find stuff, I'm gonna collect it and I'll buy it. I did buy this single I was telling you about, Shock to the System, that has the floppy disk. I finally found one and it's on order, and hopefully it'll be here within the next week or two. And I'll show that off once I get it in one of my wrap ups. So thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. Hit like, click subscribe so you'll know when we have another show coming up. And the next show is going to be next week, and it's going to be our May wrap up. It'll go through all the purchases we made for the month of May. So thanks again, and we will see you next time on The Collection.